So, the Broncos just pulled off something they haven't done since 2014, a season sweep of the Raiders. And let's be real, beating your division rival twice in 1 year, that's the kind of win that feels extra sweet. But hold up, it's not just the victory we need to talk about. The Broncos made a bold roster move right after the game, and it's got everyone talking. Yep, Greg Dulcich, the guy we all thought could be a big piece of this offense, is officially gone. Now, you're probably wondering, why cut a former third-round pick with so much potential? What does this mean for the team moving forward, and how does this tie into the Broncos' push for the playoffs? Stick around because we're diving into everything: the sweep, the shocker, and what's next for this team that's finally finding its groove. Let's break it all down. What's up, everybody? If you're just finding us, hit that subscribe button. We're your home for everything AFC West, right here on this channel. Alright, first let's talk about the game because this was a win worth celebrating. The Broncos took down the Raiders 29-19, and while the score looks close, Denver was in control for most of the night. This wasn't just any win either. It marked their first season sweep of the Raiders since 2014. And let's be honest, beating a division rival twice in 1 year, that's the kind of statement this team needed to make. The defense really stepped up, shutting down the Raiders' offense when it mattered most. They forced turnovers, limited big plays, and showed the kind of grit we've been waiting to see all season. And then there's Bo Nix. The rookie quarterback didn't put up flashy numbers, but he got the job done. A clutch touchdown pass to Courtland Sutton, smart decision-making, and no big mistakes. Exactly what you want to see from your young quarterback in a game like this. What makes this win even sweeter? It was the Broncos' first victory at Allegiant Stadium. Finally, they've cracked the Raiders' home turf, which only adds to how much this win means for the team and the fans. It's clear this squad is starting to turn a corner, but just as the celebration was getting started, the news about Greg Dulcich dropped. And, well, that definitely changed the conversation. Let's get into it. Right after the game, the Broncos announced they were cutting Greg Dulcich. Yeah, the same guy who came in as a third-round pick with so much potential. And if you've been keeping up, it might not be a total shock, but it's still a bold move. Dulcich showed some flashes early in his career. Remember that debut against the Chargers? He looked like the real deal, a tight end who could stretch the field and be a game-changer for this offense. But then the injuries started piling up. Recurring hamstring issues kept him off the field for most of his time in Denver, and when he was healthy this season, he just couldn't make enough of an impact to crack the game day roster. In fact, he's been a healthy scratch for 8 straight weeks. 8 weeks. That's a long time to sit out when your team's tight end group isn't exactly lighting it up. So why now? It comes down to roster space. With Josh Reynolds and Drew Sanders set to return from injured reserve, the Broncos had to clear a spot, and Dulcich was the odd man out. It's tough to see, especially for a guy who had so much promise, but this is the NFL. It's all about what you can do right now, and Dulcich just couldn't stay on the field long enough to prove his worth. For the Broncos, this move says a lot. They're not waiting around for potential anymore. They're looking for contributors who can make an impact immediately, and Dulcich just didn't fit that mold anymore. It's a reminder that in the NFL, availability is just as important as talent. Now, the big question is, what does this mean for the Broncos' tight end situation moving forward? Honestly, it's been one of the weakest spots on this roster all season. Adam Trautman has been the group's leader. He's solid, but he's not exactly scaring any defenses. He's dependable, sure, but when your leading tight end has just 158 receiving yards and 1 touchdown all season, you know there's room for improvement. Then there's Lucas Krull and Nate Atkins. Both have shown flashes here and there, but neither has proven they can consistently be a reliable weapon in the passing game. Krull has had a few good moments, and Atkins has stepped up recently, but let's be real, they're depth pieces right now, not game changers. The Broncos have been waiting for someone to break out at this position, and unfortunately, it just hasn't happened. And that's a big deal because a strong tight end can open up so many options for an offense. A reliable tight end is often a quarterback's best friend, especially for a rookie like Bo Nix. But instead of a strength, it's been a glaring weakness for Denver. Looking ahead, this is a position the Broncos absolutely need to address in the offseason. Whether it's through the draft or free agency, they've got to find someone who can bring some life to this team. And there's good news on that front. This upcoming draft class has some solid tight end prospects, like Colston Loveland out of Michigan. Adding a player like that could give this offense the spark it needs. For now, though, the Broncos are rolling with what they've got. It's not ideal, but if they can get just a little more production from this group, it could make a big difference as they push for the playoffs. Now, let's talk about the guy everyone's buzzing about, Bo Nix. This rookie quarterback has been the spark the Broncos have been waiting for, and his performance against the Raiders showed exactly why. Although it wasn't a flashy game, but it was one of those solid, steady performances that make you feel like this team is in good hands. That touchdown pass to Courtland Sutton? Perfectly placed, even with pressure bearing down. And while the Raiders' defense wasn't throwing anything too wild at him, Nix handled everything they did bring his way with the kind of poise you don't always see from a rookie. Look at what he's done over the past few weeks. This kid is maturing fast. He's making the right reads, avoiding big mistakes, and keeping the offense moving. That's exactly what you want from a young quarterback. He's playing like this without much help from his tight ends and with a running game that's been hit or miss. Even the coaching staff deserves a nod here. Sean Payton is giving Nix the tools to succeed, tailoring the offense to his strengths while helping him expand his game. Remember when people labeled Bo as a check-down QB in college? Yeah, not anymore. He's pushing the ball downfield and showing he's not afraid to take risks when it's the right call. If Bo keeps this up, he's not just going to be in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. He's going to be the cornerstone of this franchise for years to come. Alright, so let's take a step back and look at what this win really means for the Broncos. At 7-5, the Broncos are very much in the playoff hunt. Sure, there's still work to do, and they're not perfect by any means, but this win shows progress. The defense is stepping up, the offense is finding some rhythm behind Bo Nix, and even the special teams are coming through when it matters. This is starting to look like a team that believes in itself, and that's a big deal. But let's not ignore the challenges. The roster is still thin in some areas, and injuries are a concern. Riley Moss and Zach Allen are dealing with issues, and while their injuries don't seem long-term, this team can't afford to lose any more key players. Depth has been a problem all season, and it's something the Broncos will need to navigate carefully as they head into the final stretch. The big takeaway from this win? The Broncos are trending up. They're still a work in progress, but the pieces are starting to come together. At 7-5, they're sitting in the 7th seed in the AFC, and their playoff chances are currently hovering around 73%. That's not just good, it's exciting. Next up, they've got the Browns on Monday Night Football, a massive test against a team that's just as hungry for a playoff spot. Then it's the Colts in Week 15, another AFC wildcard contender, followed by a divisional showdown with the Chargers in Week 16. These games are season-defining. Win them, and the Broncos are solidifying their spot. Lose even one, and things could start slipping. If Bo Nix keeps growing, if the defense stays tough, and if they can address those weak spots, like tight end, this team could be a serious problem for opponents down the stretch. Now, the real test is consistency. Time will tell, but one thing's for sure. This isn't the same Broncos team we saw at the start of the season. They're finding their identity, and it's starting to look like a team that's here to compete. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your take on Greg Dulcich being waived? Was it the right call, or do you think the Broncos should have given him more time? And what about Bo Nix? Has he convinced you that he's the future of this team? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I know you all have some strong opinions on this one.